Hi, I'm David Grotberg, and this week I'm going to talk about the Engineering Notebook. The Engineering Notebook is a notebook that documents your design process and contains your research paper. So for the Engineering Notebook, for your design process, you include a couple things. You go through each step of the design process of your robot. You start with the challenge, the problem. What do you have to do? What do you have to do? What does your robot need to do? And that's announced at kickoff. You know, they tell you what the game is, and then you take that, and then you go to the next step. Define the solution. What does your robot have to do? What does it need to do to complete the problem? And then you go to the next step, where you have to build something that can that can emulate that solution. You need to build a claw that can grab, or whatever you need to do to complete that, to do that solution to fix that problem. The next step is then to take that solution and take that prototype of your idea and start perfecting it, and then test it, test your robot, and then move on and redesign and eventually perfect your robot. So you document all that step by step in your notebook. You document each different part of your robot, your claw, your chassis, every different aspect of your robot, and you go through each of the steps of the design process with each of those parts. You also include your safety information. Safety is very important to have in your notebook. You talk about if you had a nurse come in to teach you on first aid, if you had a safety trainer teach you how to be safe around power tools. You document that safety. There's also a research paper, and every year the game is themed. This past year the game was a space elevator, so you write something related to that game. I wrote a research paper on the cable for that space elevator. So you write a five-page research paper on the space elevator, or on whatever is related to the game theme that year, anything you want. And you also include your bibliography with all your cited sources for where you got the information that you used in your research paper. The notebook is 30 pages long, 25 up to 5 pages can be the research paper, and anything else is the notebook. And then you can also have a 20-page double-sided appendix, so basically a 40-sided appendix with a lot of documentation. If you have some photos that support but take up a lot of space, you put that there. If you have different meeting minutes, if you have different forms and stuff that really contribute to your design process but that take up a lot of space, you put that back in your appendix, and then you just refer to it in your main notebook so that readers can look to it and see that information if they choose to do so. Your notebook is judged by 3 different judges. They'll read your notebook and judge it based on quality and how well it documents the design process, and also how good your design process was. Even if you write it perfectly, your design process may have been flawed. You might not have prototyped right, so that's also very important. Another thing that's contained in your notebook is your team demographics, just how many people you have on your team, how many boys, how many girls, some different information like that. The front of your notebook can have your team logo and also the name of your head mentor and the address for your main building location. And the notebook, it can be up to a 2-inch binder. It tends to be about a 1-inch binder, but it can be as big as a 2-inch binder. The question for the week comes from Jackie Larson, and Jackie Larson is from Port Lucie, Florida. Jackie asks, do you have to have engineering experience to write an engineering notebook? Well, Jackie, there is a certain amount of engineering experience required to write an engineering notebook because you have to really fully understand your design process. If you don't understand the design process, you can't write a notebook. Now, you can learn, but you're going to want your lead notebook writer to have some engineering experience so that they can understand the design process. Because if you can't understand your design process, then you can't write on it, because that's the main focus of your notebook. Next week I'm going to be talking about spirit and sportsmanship and the different aspects involved therein. If you have any specific questions that you'd like me to answer about spirit and sportsmanship, you can either tweet me at crazyaboutrobot, or you can message me. You can send that message to facebook.com/crazyaboutrobots, or you can post down in the YouTube comment section below.
arigato, Mr. Roboto.
どうもありがとう、ミスターロバット。またお庭で。どうもありがとう、ミスターロバット。